Welcome to Home Means, where the heart of Nevada comes alive. I'm your host, Heather Brown, and this is a place where we uncover the real stories behind the people who make our state extraordinary. From unforgettable adventures to everyday moments that shape us. This podcast is all about the voices, the faces, and the experiences that make Nevada truly unique. Let's dive in and get to the heart of what home means. I'm excited to welcome the CEO of Communities and Schools, Tami Hance-Lehr.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
I have been looking to this for quite some time. So
I get excited because, the reason why I want to do this is because I know there's so many incredible organizations and people in our community that make it so special. And I just want to highlight everything they're doing. So you're a perfect fit for this.
Well, we're really appreciative for the opportunity to talk about the incredible things our kids are doing.
So you've been in Nevada since you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
How has your upbringing made you passionate about helping this community?
So I moved here when I was a sophomore in high school. It was quite a transition from moving from Utah. So as you can imagine, there's a little bit of a culture shock. And what I immediately started doing was joining clubs and networking. And that is what I think is such an important part of this state, is that things get done by relationships, by communities, by your village, by the kitchen table, by the boardroom table, and that has paid off in my career exponentially.
I do love that the connectivity of our community is kind of a secret weapon. It's like people don't really realize that, yes, we are a state of 3.2 million, a community of 2.4 million, and yet what does Tina used to say? I know all 50 of them.
Right.
There's 2.4 million people, and I know all 50 of them.
I think I say we're a state of, to your point, 3.5 million people run by 500 people and their friends, right?
I love that. Yes, I love that for a statewide perspective, because it is true. And I love that we can pick up the phone and call an elected official, call a community leader, call an ally who is just passionate about this, and everybody leads with yes. And I think it's what is a secret weapon that I want people looking at Nevada being like, I want to know what they do. I want them to know that.
Yeah, that battle-born, right, mentality continues even as we're, growing and becoming so much larger. I do think that is definitely really the heart of the state.
You left hospitality and philanthropy to go run communities and schools. Can you talk us through that transition?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate, again, through networking and people who believed in me and gave me second chances, much of which I now want to do for our kids. And I spent 26 years running an organization called Destinations by Design. It was at that time the largest event planning company in the state of Nevada. I worked 24 hours. You work nights, holidays, and weekends, right? That's, we used to say all the casinos are open 24 hours. There's no locks on their doors. There's no locks on our doors. So I spent a tremendous of time producing events on the Strip, whether it be casino New Year's Eve parties, whether it be conventions, whether it be all sorts of different things. And that was an incredible time. I got to plan events for celebrities. I got to, travel and just do some incredible things. And so that time has really taught me well. But I woke up one day and decided that I needed to do something more purpose related. And I actually remember the time that it did. And I tell this story often, but I was touring the old Shannon West Homeless Youth Center. And I thought, oh my God, this is an emergency. Like, children live here. This is an emergency. And what I was doing, although can be an emergency considered in the event world, it wasn't an emergency to me anymore. And I thought I needed to do something different. So I left and didn't really know where I was going, and then found Communities and Schools, and it was and has been the best decision that I've ever made, because I'm able to take everything I learned in the business community, everything I learned at the event, in the event world, and apply it into making sure that our kids have a community of support.
And I also have a logistics event background, political though, not casino, which it's still chaotic.
Yeah.
just in a very different.
Organized chaos is organized chaos.
So I understand that. I understand that, I have a similar trajectory where all of a sudden one day it just wasn't fulfilling in the same ways that it had been before.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I was smart, I knew I could do something. And I love that you found communities in schools. And so when you took over as CEO, what vision and, we know your background, but what vision did you bring with you?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I'm a person that leads by doing. And so I had the director of development role for a little over a year before I stepped into the CEO role. And so I had a whole year to kind of understand the business and understand the organization, which certainly set me apart from maybe an external candidate. And the biggest thing that I think I brought to the organization is to know our value. Because in nonprofits, so often we always think that we should take less money or do more with less, or, well, it's okay, they don't have the money, we're still going to do it anyway. And all that's great. But for communities and schools, we are working so closely with our school districts and our principals and our administrators to help give our kids a community of support. We need to understand the value that we bring to a community, right? We're graduating our kids, we're giving them, a career or a college or a military or an open door and supporting them through that. And so I really had a conversation about we need to understand our value and we need to move from being a charity to a strategic ally, making sure that our kids are getting across the finish line and linking arms with our school district. And that really, I think, has helped us grow and have the district see how important, the partnership is.
Yeah. And the fact that you are able to kind of bridge that gap. We talk a lot about this in economic development, how, we're bringing in businesses, but then they need to have a workforce. But then it's starting in that PK through and taking a through 20 approach is really where we need to be. What are some of the strengths and even still some of the weaknesses that as a community we can highlight so we can start to improve the way we communicate with businesses?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, there's a little bit of a misnomer in the fact that people think our kids just show up ready to learn at school. And that, and I think we learned a little bit that in COVID times, right, about what a school actually provides. So many of our kids show up to school and they don't have basic needs. They may not have eaten breakfast. Their shoes might be two sizes too small. Their clothes might be dirty and haven't washed in a while. They may have experienced trauma at home, right? They might have been dealing with some things, and they're just not in a space, and they're not going to pass their math test. And I know we talk about improving our academics, and we absolutely need to do that. But until our kids are ready to learn and have the supports they need, then we can get them to read more and improve their math. And so that, I think, is the biggest thing. By bringing the community into the school, that's what CIS does. We support all of their basic needs. Mm-hmm. So wraparound services, and we have a room in every single school where we're focused on all of those needs. There's anything that you donate to us is in that room. It's bus passes, it's coats, it's hats, it's gloves, it's food. We bring in community partners, eyeglasses, dental work, mental health programs, weekend food bags, you name it, we'll find a resource for it. Communities in Schools is one of the only people on a school campus that does not grade or does not punish our kids. And so think about that when we're making house calls at home and talking to mom and dad. We're talking to everybody in a way that says, let us help you. We know that it's hard. We know that the system is not set up to just go to one place and get all the services that you need. And that's why, literally bringing the community into the school is so important. Yeah. And the model is a full-time Communities in Schools person in every single school that we're in. So we're in 117 schools. That's 117 team members that are literally doing whatever it takes to make sure our kids, and to your point, pre-K all the way to graduation. That's what's so important. And that is going to be our workforce. Those are going to be our future leaders. Mm-hmm. And these are the kids that we need to make sure get across the finish line and feel that support now so that in the future we can vote for them.
Yes, and I love the idea of bringing solutions directly to people. So often we're like, well, you could just go across town to this facility and the answers are there. And it's like, well, what about all the reasons why that's not going to work? And so it is just a good reminder that breaking down barriers to entry is how we're actually going to help these students. And, you could look at test scores all day long, but if you're not looking at, to your point, right, are they mentally prepared? Are they, do they have the right clothing? Do they have the nutrition? Do they have, they have clear minds because they didn't get a good night's sleep? Right. So I think it is really important that we're looking at the holistic approach to a student and not just what they do for the 6 hours while they're in school.
Yeah. Intelligence is everywhere. It's literally everywhere. In every single one of our kiddos, the grit, the resilience, the wanting to do whatever it takes to make their lives better. Yeah. But opportunity isn't always everywhere. And that is the entire, part of my entire career has been, people have given me opportunities. They've opened doors for me. They've given me second chances. And I want to make sure every one of our kids has that same opportunity, that Nevada way, right? Yeah. This is the Nevada way.
And it is definitely, opportunity, I think, is the opportune word. Because if somebody doesn't even know an option is available, right, then they don't know to aspire to it.
Right.
And we talk a lot about this podcast is just, there's so many incredible things in Nevada, but people don't know about them. Okay. Or, it's even just, unless you see someone in that leadership position or somebody opened the door and showed you how to do something, how are you supposed to know that you can dream for that?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's great that, school isn't just to teach arithmetic and spelling. It is to make them a good community engaged person who is curious about the world and that wants to, dream bigger and hopefully attribute to something incredible to our state.
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that our kids know all the opportunities that are out there, right? And, even when we're talking about hospitality, right, there's so many other jobs within hospitalities that kids don't realize, right? You can be an accountant, you can work in marketing, mm-hmm. You can be a lawyer. There's so many things that you can do within our state that are our hospitality, but our kids are still thinking about the same 3 jobs. And so we want to expand that. And then all the other things that are out there, right? The mining, the tech world, right? Be an entrepreneur. You have so many opportunities. And so that's really the goal of our work, is to not only give our kids and remove whatever barrier that's standing in their way, but then open the door to more possibilities.
It sounds like, through the work at communities and schools, they've had so many opportunities to help kids realize their potential. Do you have any examples of where maybe the students that you're helping taught you something unexpected?
I have so many. Because what I am always in awe about with our kids is that in a lot of ways, so many adults have let them down. And our kids keep coming back and keep stepping back up to the plate and asking for help, and opening a door and trying again and reaching out because they want someone to see them and they want someone to actually help. And they're telling us that in a lot of different ways. Behavior is a form of communication, right? Sometimes our kids don't have the words. And so when I meet some of our students that, maybe don't have the support at home, or maybe, we're told, that they're not going to graduate, but yet they show up again and again. And they not only graduate, but they graduate a year early, and they get that scholarship to that school because all they just wanted was a little bit of help. That's when I know that even on my toughest days, when I don't feel like going forward, or a donor has told me no, or what happens, I think always about our students. And I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So that's really is the resilience and the grit has just been incredible.
And I do love that, because I feel like that is so Nevada, because being resilient, pushing through, I like to always talk about how, as a state, we almost lost our statehood because we were kind of declining in population, and we pushed through and we legalized divorce and gaming, and like we were just pushing the envelope. And I feel that's obviously an extreme, and it's kind of like a silly example to what we're talking about with kids. But I think it's wonderful that at the end of the day, you're seeing kids who are given this opportunity. They're giving access. They're given, just help in the fundamental ways that they don't know how to ask for, but that they need. And how that is, you can see a change in attitude, a shift in perspective, and what that's meaning for graduation rates and, hopeful future trajectory.
Yeah, it's what's been really great is when our site coordinators give our kids like a goal to meet, and the kids knock it out of the park, right? And they show up every single day and they're like, yes, I'm going to change my attendance. And they're showing up and they're high-fiving our site coordinators every day, or they're changing their grades and they're improving their grades because somebody just gave them an opportunity to actually do it and believed in them that they could. And that's true in all of us. All of us just want us to be seen. We just want someone to believe in us. It doesn't matter if you're 55 like me or you're 15. I think we all want the same thing at the end of the day.
And I know we don't say this enough, but teachers and your coordinators, they're like the unsung heroes of so much. And when we think about the trajectory of our state, these kids are the future. I know that sounds corny, but they are the future. And so we have to, I like that we can highlight what they're doing in those schools, because they're making it, whether they're gamifying school for the students or, just encouraging them to believe in themselves. Like, that's all tiny micro things that are adding up to really big, wonderful outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, our teachers and our administrators are doing so much work, but there's not enough of them, right? And the class sizes are too big. And so when you put a CIS on a campus, we can help work on the basic needs that are challenged, and let our teachers focus on educating and gamifying and being creative and being unique and getting our kids interested in school, because we're giving the kids the tools that they need to come to school ready to learn. And they're excited to come to school because they have a brand new pair of shoes. So, these are just, sometimes, to your point, it's the little things, right? It's that one-to-one case management. It's a new pair of shoes. It's just giving a kid a goal and making and telling them that they believe in them. It's amazing what our kids will do.
Yeah, and I always forget that their peers are such an influential part. And if their peers aren't going through the same struggles, it's nice that they have an outlet to, they can't necessarily share. Yeah. So it's nice that they have an outlet too.
Yeah, and every CIS resource room is a safe place on a school campus. So it's open before school, it's after school, open during lunch. So you can go and, have a conversation, meet other kids that might be going through similar things. We do a lot of what we call tier 2 work, which is our small group work. So if we've got kids that are all kind of going through similar problems, whether it be immigration or divorce or, bullying or things like that, we can work with them in a group. And then also we have found that kids make lifelong friendships that way too, because they have just, kind of found their people in a most unexpected place.
You said that you listed off a bunch of stuff of donations that you'll use. How can people, what is the most requested item that you have, and how can people help?
Yeah, I mean, the most requested item that we have is interestingly enough, kind of like things that are not super sexy, right? It's socks, it's underwear. It's some of those things those hygiene items, those basic need items. I've seen time and time a kid come in, because he needs a pencil or he needs a notebook, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I don't have a toothbrush at home. Can I get that toothbrush and that toothpaste? Or they'll ask for something for their sister at home. They'll be like, oh, my sister needs socks. So it's not always the Spider-Man backpack or all of those types of things, which we have and which are great, because we want kids to fit in with all the other kids, but it's a lot of times just those basic needs that we kind of take for granted.
And can people who want to donate, can they just go to a school and find the CIS?
Yeah, the best
office?
place to be is, my goal is to be in every single Title I school and high need school across Nevada. I'm not quite there yet. So the best place to go if people are interested is cisnevada.org. You can, send us a note and, say that you have a donation. We take gently used items. We take new items. There's usually like an Amazon or a Target wish list up there. So there's a lot of different ways for people to get involved. And as the holidays, the weather changes, we'll be asking for, coats and gloves and, more warm socks and things like that. So there's lots of ways to get. And my email is on the website too. So people can just email me directly. I just always love a good note.
All right. Well, we're going to make sure to highlight that because I'd like for people to
Wonderful.
start knowing that there's another avenue to give generously.
Yeah.
Looking back, what lessons from connecting kids have continued to guide how you approach challenges today?
Oh, connecting kids. Wow. I mean, that was such an important time, right? To make sure that every single kiddo had a connection to a Wi-Fi and also, a computer. And so being able to do that work was certainly one of the highlights. What I was reminded of is, as we spoke about before, is that people in Nevada want to help and everyone will rally around a cause to get something done. And so there wasn't one person who said no when we were making phone calls or when we needed, phone chargers for, families that maybe didn't have an actual house but needed to charge their kid's computer. And we had people donate like hundreds of phone chargers within like 24 hours. It was people that were donating, planes and trucks to get the computers here. It was our partners that were driving equipment out to Moapa, which is in Clark County, by the way. So it's just every time we picked up the phone to say, hi, we need this. Hi, we need this. People made it happen. Cox Communications saying, okay, if we do it this way, then you can help. You can actually stay on the phone and help connect the families without having them to go to the website by themselves, because that was a barrier. When language was a barrier, people stepped in to help us translate. I mean, literally, Heather, everything we asked for, people just showed up and did and gave and just rallied around the cause. And, it was a tumultuous time, too. We weren't always on the same side about what was happening with the pandemic, but we could certainly rally around what our kids needed. And that was such an incredible time that I will forever be so grateful that I had the opportunity to be a part of.
I love that example because I think if we sat here and really started thinking backwards, we could come up with a dozen others, if not more, of how this community will rally when asked.
Yep.
And I have goosebumps thinking about it because there hasn't been a time, I think back to the shooting at UNLV and the community came together. October 1, the community came together. Pandemic needed it. And it's just, I love that this community, it does not matter the reason, when there's smart people that say, hey, there's a need, and people who are really passionate about it, people will show up for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the heart of this community was just, was just never ending. And it was nice to have that time.
I love this. So you mentioned that your favorite quote is, the service you do for others is the rent you pay.
Yeah.
And how does that philosophy shape the way you live and lead today?
Every time I'm feeling a little extra stressed, every time I'm not sure of the direction to go, I always have to take a moment and either go visit one of my schools or go volunteer or go actually just like do something of service. It is just always has really kind of led me, especially the last 8 years. I just celebrated my 8-year anniversary with Communities and Schools, and it just continues to ground me in terms of the most important thing in this world is to think about others and just to give and just be empathetic about that, right? And I have been so fortunate in my life to have people open doors for me and give me second chances that I just want to make sure that that I'm able to do that for everybody else. And whether it's at Communities and Schools, whatever it happens to be, it really is just an important part of my leadership to be able to do that.
And I appreciate that you talk so much about the fact that people have given you second chances.
Yeah.
I think it gets glossed over very easily sometimes that, oh, this person's just the CEO. It's like, no, I had, 45 years of X, Y, and Z that happened, bad decisions, silly decisions, pivots that I made that didn't turn out. And I think it's really important that we're just honest and saying like, yeah, I've had a long career and I've made mistakes, but people have, you know, people have given me the opportunity to learn from those mistakes and given me another chance. I think that's really, I think that's, yeah, not a lot of people admit that. So I think it's special.
Yeah, well, thank you. I often tell my team all the time that clear is kind, right? Like we have to be really clear about, the mistakes people make and then, give them that coaching and then continue to move forward because we're not all going to get it right on the first time or the second time or the third time. If we continue to make the same mistake over and over again, maybe this isn't just, the place for you, but people have certainly believed in me and saw things in me way before I even saw them in myself. So it's been very, I have a lot of gratitude as it relates to that.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of guests about having mentors and then having advocates and, the people who are actually going to say your name when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
And, I feel like that's easy for us to sit here and say, like, I want to do that for people. But then when you take a step back and you learn about the resources and the focus that communities and schools have, people need just basic necessities so they can get to the point where they're feeling confident to show up, to then have mentors, to then have the advocates.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of power in asking for help.
Asking for help, asking questions is a skill that's really lost on so many people because I don't know if it's just not having confidence, if it's not being curious. I don't know. I get nervous, honestly, because I do feel like empathy is also lost in so much of what we do. And obviously your organization relies a lot on people's empathetic ability to show up and volunteer and donate, and your staff has to be caring because they're dealing with children that need guidance and support.
Yeah, well, I think it's just not even like judging from the first time, right? Many times people are like, kids don't show up for school because they're lazy and they just don't want to do that. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
So many of our kids don't show up for school because they might be working a second job, or they might be having to stay home to take care of their younger siblings, or they simply might not have clothes to wear because they're all dirty, and if they wear dirty clothes, they get made fun of. Or like, they're really navigating a serious mental health issue and they don't have somebody to talk to about it. So I think, and that is what, when I was in the event space, I was taught that we always had to have all the answers, right? Because people hired us to have all the answers for all the things. And even if we didn't know what the answer was, we were going to figure it out. So we told people we knew what the answer was, and then we'd go back and figure it out, right? And so I did that for, 25 years of my life. And so walking into the nonprofit space, into a place where I literally did not know a lot. I don't have a teaching degree. I don't have a social work degree. I know how to run a business. And so I had to really quickly, like ask for help and ask people, like, I don't know what this means, or help me with this, or whatever. And it's hard. And we haven't talked about this, but as female leaders, like, we think we're supposed to have all the answers. Like, we'll never apply for a job that we don't know everything on the resume and all of that. Like, we look at all of those things. And so it definitely was an act for me to really kind of put my ego aside and be like, if you're going to be successful in this job, you've got to ask some questions, and you've got to ask for help, and you've got to your point, get my kitchen table of people around me to help me. And it's helped me be a much better leader, and it's also helped me have a lot of empathy, not only with our students, but just walking around in the world, right?
And I also think as leaders, we just need to be kind to other leaders, because if they show a little bit of vulnerability, it's not because they're bad at what they're doing. It's because they want to be better.
Right.
And I do feel, I catch myself, always being like, what is the intention of that question? Mm-hmm. Is it a got me, or is they genuinely asking?
Yeah.
And I think I do try and lead with being genuine. Like, people are genuine, and maybe they have their guard up because they don't want people to judge them. And I'm talking about, leaders, not just, then we talk about the students, which is, then it compounds, right? Yeah. And so I do think you're right. I think there's such an opportunity for us to just have more lead with empathy. Yeah. And if somebody is asking for question or, for help, being willing to be there.
Yeah. So one of my incredible role models was Puna Mather. And she said something once to me that I will never forget. And she said, relax, it's not about you.
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, whatever people's asking about, their question, their tone, whatever it is, it's usually not about you. It's usually about something that they're dealing with. And so if we could just assume good intent, right, I think we would kind of just go a little bit further and diffuse a lot of the things that happen, knowing that it isn't anything about what we did or said, but it's probably just more about what that person is dealing with on that any given Tuesday.
And I think that's just solid advice for everyone, right? We got to bring the temperature down in general.
Yeah.
Because if we are going to, coming back to communities and schools, if we are going to support organizations like yours that are supporting the students in the places that they need, breaking down barriers, there has to be empathy for wanting to, even from the very beginning, be a supportive anything.
Yeah.
And it does worry me that, we've become very isolated as a community. And I don't mean our community, I just mean people in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I do still think that connectivity, that, softness is still very much permeating throughout Clark County and the state, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if we can just focus on meeting people where they are, right? Like meeting people where they are, and there's always a common ground that we can find, always.
So if we think to the future, 20 years down the road, and students that have gone through CIS, and they become leaders in their own right, what do you want them to talk about the foundation that they received through a CIS program?
Well, I really want a future leader to be a CEO of Communities and Schools of Nevada, a CIS case managed student. To have my job would be amazing. So our national president of Communities and Schools is actually a former case managed student from San Antonio. So we've got a good track record. So I have the sorority mentality, right? You're always recruiting your next replacement.
Yeah.
So for me, that would just be gold. I want them to talk about that one-to-one relationship. There is a magic that our site coordinators have on a school campus. They are able to see things in our kiddos that most other people can't see in them. And I want them to talk about the relationship, and that somebody believed in them, and that is the reason why they graduated. That is the reason why they took that next step, is because they had that one-to-one relationship.
Talk to me about how your relationship with a school district works. You are in a Title I school. You have you have a designated office, which doubles as a safe place for the students. Mm-hmm. Do the students self-select, or is it the principals? Is it the teachers that make the introduction?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So because we put a full-time Communities and Schools person on every school campus, they go to that school every day. So I'll use Clark High School. It's my alma mater. It's a great place. We have 2 site coordinators at Clark High School, and they go there every single day. And they've been there for several years. So if you can imagine, they've been there for several years. So they're getting to know our freshmen and our sophomore and our juniors and our seniors. And because Communities and Schools has that resource room, any kid from the school can show up and no questions asked, get deodorant, soap, food, whatever they happens to do. They can, to your point, self-refer. And at the high school level, many of them and their friends will self-refer them. If they needed a prom dress, if they needed some coaching, if they need help with their FAFSA, if they need someone to help pay for their college application fee, we do all that. So a lot of their friends will say, hey, we'll introduce them to Communities and Schools, which is we know is one of the best things that they can actually do is word of mouth. But teachers can refer Communities and Schools. So instead of sending a student to like the old dean's office or whatever, the principal's office, now our teachers can send their kids to the Communities and Schools office. And they can, have sent a note to our site coordinator, say, hey, can you check on Mike? He's been acting out a lot the last couple of weeks. I think something might be going on. Can you, do a check-in or a well check or whatever? Our principals can refer. Our site coordinators, because they've been there, they can refer. And we also have an elective class called an academy class. And it's a class where students have to be at least 3 or more credits deficient. So it's literally focused for our kids that are falling through the cracks, that may not graduate without the help of communities and schools. We partner with a CCSD teacher. They teach the class, and then everyone in the class gets case managed by our site coordinators. Our site coordinators case manage about 50 to 55 students. And work with them either on attendance, behavior, coursework, or social emotional goals. And so that is really that entire kind of level of support with the school. If there's a social worker or a counselor, if there's other people, then we kind of have a team where we might elevate some different things that are needed. And then we'll bring in additional resources. And we do that in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. In high schools, we because of the size, we need to have at least 2 site coordinators because there's so many kids and there's so many needs. I mean, we could make an argument that I could put 4 on a school campus, and one of our high schools actually does have 4. One for freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then they just move up all 4 years, and then we start the process all over again.
That's nice that they get to stay with the same coordinator all 4 years. That's
the goal. It doesn't always work that way because site coordinators get promoted, or they'll get their social work degree and they'll take other jobs or things like that. But that's certainly the goal.
Yeah. And I also really appreciate that you stick with them through high school.
Yeah.
I feel like obviously elementary school is such a foundational time, but high school is such a pivotal time in who they're deciding to be. And, the dropout rate is exponentially more in high school. So it's nice that you have those resources throughout.
Yeah. Well, and that's been another goal. As you asked about, what was one of the visions that I brought to the organization. It was also growing in feeder patterns. So we've doubled our footprint over the last 5 years. We were in 63 schools when I started. We're in about 117 schools now. And all of those schools have been added only in feeder patterns, which means that this is a safe place. And so if you're a kiddo in elementary school and you move to middle school, I want to be in the middle school that you move into, safe place. I want to go be from the middle school to the high school that you go to, safe place. That has been our goal, and that's been a really, really successful way to wrap our kids with that level of support all the way through their K through 12 education.
And it's such a smart way to think about it too, because if somebody found, a good trajectory with your site coordinator and then all of a sudden went to a middle school without it, that could be problematic. So it's such a smart way to think about, where's the school zoned for the next and the next to the next.
Yeah. And what I didn't even realize when we thought about that is we're also case managing families, right? Because if I've got kiddos in elementary school, but they've got siblings in middle school, now our site coordinators can talk, and then they can also maybe do home visits together. Right? Go visit the family. What do you need? They need laundry detergent. Maybe they need help with their SNAP application, whatever it happens to be. So we can do that in a really great space too, case managing families. And, we know family engagement is such an important part of the school experience. And so many families want to be involved in their kids' education, but they may not have the time. They may not know how to do that. So this is just another way that we can support not only our students, but, our families and ultimately our community.
I think it's going back to, assuming best intentions when it comes to the parents, because, I don't think your average parent, it just doesn't care. Maybe they just don't know how.
Right.
And I think having, that lens when you are doing the home visits and things like that, obviously your site coordinators are doing it, but it's good for the public to start changing that rhetoric, right? I don't think people don't want to care. They just don't maybe know how to show up in the ways that their students need.
Yeah. Or, we're a town that is, we have shift work, a lot of shift work. So a lot of our parents don't have the availability to attend a conference or, a school assembly or something like that because they're working during those times, right? And they might be a single parent household, whatever it happens to be. Again, just assuming good intent and really giving our families opportunities to engage in the ways that they can engage is only going to be more successful. And our schools are doing an incredible job of it too. But, again, when you put CIS on a campus, we can help with all of those things.
And I like that if you have students in elementary school, middle school, that the site coordinators can work together.
Absolutely.
And teaming up, and then it's just everybody going in and feeling supported all at once. That's so smart.
Yeah.
You mentioned about weekend bags, and I learned about that when I went through Leadership Las Vegas, and we created weekend bags for a school. And I honestly, it's I'm sad that I didn't know that we have so many students in our community that go without food on the weekends because they rely so heavily on school lunches.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Like, obviously, and I'll just also share, when they talked about this, I was like, oh, I want to go buy Gushers, or, I thought I was doing something nice. And, the coordinator was like, look, thank you, but no thank you. Consistency is key here. And it really put my own just life into a lot of perspective, because what I thought was a nice thing was actually not what the student needed. And I'm glad that the person shared that.
Yeah.
How many weekend bags do you guys think you do across all your schools?
Yeah. So, it's a stark reality when you find a student that's putting ketchup packets in their pockets and they're taking them home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to make sauce for the noodles. Like it is something that never, ever, ever, ever should happen in this country, and yet it does every single day. We're very fortunate that we have so many great partners here in Clark County serving our kids, and Three Square being our top two, that are providing thousands of weekend food bags for us every single week. And it's volunteers like you and so many other people that probably are paying attention to this, that are helping us show up with weekend food bags, or we do grocery giveaways, or we're doing fresh produce bags. And it depends on the community, and here's why. What I'm doing at Clark High School is different than what I'm doing at El Dorado High School. That's differently that I'm doing at Robert Taylor Elementary in Henderson, because what we do when we go into a school is we assess the community. Are they living in a food desert, or is there another food giveaway right down the road at a church or with the Just One project or something like that? And so we can assess what they actually need, so we're not duplicating services, because we don't have time to duplicate services. Nobody wants us to do that. So we assess the need, and then we'll work with the school and the different community partners on what they need. So some schools might need weekend food bags. Other schools may not need weekend food bags, but then they need a grocery giveaway or whatever. So that's been, so we can't do our work without our 100 different community partners across the state that do that. And so that works really well for us in Clark County. In Elko County, there isn't a community partner that does weekend food bags. So if there isn't a partner that can do that, the answer wasn't kids go without food bags. So we do the weekend food bags. We buy the food, we get the volunteers, we bag it, and then we not only give it to the 12 schools that we have in Elko County proper, but then we also drive them out to some of the more rural communities too. Our volunteers do that as well, because again, the answer can't be kids can't have food. Yeah. The answer is, how do we make this work? And it's, I remember the first time I visited a communities and schools resource room. It was like my first week on the job, and I asked, we do homework club twice a week. It was an after school homework club, and I asked this little fourth grader, I said, what's your favorite thing about homework club, right? And kind of like you, like with the Gushers, right? Like you're just so, like you just want to help, right? You just want to help. And I was like, what's your favorite thing about homework club? And she said, I get to eat dinner. And I was, I mean, you're like, don't cry for this little kid. And I just remember thinking, this is an emergency. Like, This is an emergency, people. Like, when we have 70% of our kids that are qualifying for free and reduced lunch in Nevada, this is an emergency.
Oh, that really, that hit me, because, I grew up, I was a reduced lunch kid, and, people make fun of you.
I know.
And it's whatever, right? Because I feel like it made me stronger, but it really, like, I never went without dinner, right? And that just, I'm sorry, that really, like, it's so important that we're doing this stuff. And I love that, all your volunteers, and I also think it's a really important reminder to folks that your nonprofit isn't working in a silo.
Yeah.
It's not duplicating efforts because you're communicating. And, I think that's an easy criticism of some who are just look at nonprofits and like, oh, everybody just does this. No, like, you're all different components of someone's life, and you're all touching the student in different ways. But the fact that you can help and organize that, like, I think that's an important part to really emphasize.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, we can't do it without everybody else. And if there's one hole in the safety net, then all of us fall, right? All of us fall. And so it's so important for us to really think about what is needed on a school campus, and all the things that help make our schools successful is really the most important part.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it's good to have that is an emotional reaction to this, because it is sad. It is sad that we live in a city of opulence in so many ways, and yet we have people that go hungry if it wasn't for nonprofits. And I think this is where I go back to, why I love this community, and why I think the nonprofit sector, and I'll throw government in there, why government needs to be involved in, making people's lives better. Yeah. And I worry that people are so quick to judge, like, they didn't do this one thing that we thought they were going to do, and so they're terrible. It's like there's so many unknowns that happen, especially when you're dealing with children. Like, it's incredible that you guys are there to be supportive. I love the PK through 12 trajectory for a student, right? The fact that they can have that one constant in their life. Like, that is special.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really wonderful that, our community, we know it shows up for the things that we need it to, but the fact that you guys show up every single day and work with other organizations, I think is just an important reminder that, even if we don't talk about it every day, there's so many organizations that do need philanthropic help. And we have amazing people in this town that are changing people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So. I mean, I think more nonprofits want to work together. I haven't never met a nonprofit that doesn't want to work together. I think a lot of times you just need to know how to work together, right? And not that we can work together with every single organization, but we really try to bring, more people into the conversation and on a school campus to make sure that, they can also provide the supports for our kids as well.
Well, so we talked a lot about just how your organization, in conjunction with other nonprofits, are taking a truly holistic approach to helping these students make sure that they can show up and get an education. Yeah. Is there something that you want every Nevadan to know, whether it's, the students could be in your child's school and these are ways that you can help, or, showing up to volunteer to maybe the allied organizations is all a matriculation to helping these most vulnerable students?
Yeah, I think, again, Nevadans also just want to be able to help, but they don't also know how. So there's two things that I would ask. And one is kind of like assume good intent and ask more questions, right? So when you hear that, kids aren't coming to school, and don't just assume that they're lazy, like think about the reasons why they may not come to school and what they might be going through, and ask more questions. Listen, volunteering is the best thing you can do for your mental health. I truly believe that. If you're sad, if you're depressed, if you don't know what to do, go volunteer. Go to 3 Square. Go to Serving Our Kids. Go to the Just One Project. Go volunteer at United Way. There are so many ways and opportunities in this organization. Come to communities and schools. Come work a field day. I've got a school that just came out that we need to go paint some fences and pull some weeds. Like, just come for a couple hours and, get your hands dirty a little bit. I promise you will feel so much better about just everything that's happening in the world, and you might even become addicted. So I just think volunteering is the best thing. It has completely changed my life, not only just volunteering, but just moving into a more purpose-driven career. I jump up every day and I just want to go to work every day because I want to make a difference. And I know there's so many people in Nevada that want to do the same, and maybe they just don't know how.
And I feel like right now in this world timeline that we're living in, being excited about something and getting, wanting to be someplace and improving people's lives is just the best way you can spend your time.
Let's just focus ourselves locally.
Yeah.
Just what can we control? This is what I can control today.
Yeah. I love that. Well, before we close, I want to get into some rapid fire.
Ooh, rapid fire. All right, I'm ready.
Yes. What is your favorite local restaurant?
Well, my favorite local restaurant closed. It was DW Bistro.
Ah, yes.
I know, right? But my other favorite local restaurant is Honey Salt. I love Honey Salt.
Mhm.
I love local chefs and local people that continue to also invest in their community in so many other ways.
What's a must-visit spot for newcomers?
A must visit spot for newcomers, I think, is anything outside of the Strip, right? Everyone's coming to the Strip. We love the Strip. It fuels this town. But get outside, get outdoors. Valley of Fire is a hidden gem, right? That people don't always
Mhm.
think about. So I think, just like driving 20 minutes outside the Strip and just seeing all the incredible things that we have, that the city has to offer.
And you might have just answered this, but what is the best outdoor activity?
It's Red Rock.
Red Rock.
It's absolutely Red Rock because I mean, there's so many things that you can do and see, and you can be with people, you can not be with people. I mean, it is literally like such a place of heaven.
What's a hidden gem in Southern Nevada?
Oh, a hidden gem in Southern Nevada. I think a hidden gem in Southern Nevada is the Beverly Theater.
Hmm.
I think that is absolutely a hidden gem for sure.
What's your go-to coffee shop?
So I don't really have a go-to coffee shop. I'm gonna switch the question.
Okay.
I have a go-to wine shop.
Even better. I don't drink coffee, so this is lovely. I'll take the
I
suggestion.
mean, I do drink coffee, but that's not my thing. But my new favorite place is Wino in the Uncommons. It's a little like wine bar. And I just think it's such a great place to go have a glass of wine or, have a non-alcoholic beverage and just meet people and just to kind of relax a little bit.
Wonderful. What is your favorite place to unwind?
My favorite place to unwind is my house, literally. I have two Labrador retrievers, a black lab and a yellow lab, Pepper and Ryder, and so that is absolutely my favorite place is just to be home. And after living my life so much on the Strip and not being home so much, I very much value just the opportunity to just chill at home.
What is the best view in the city?
The best view in the city is to take a city night lights flight with Maverick helicopters and do that for 15 minutes is the absolutely best view in the city. I highly recommend it. It's a great date night. It's not super expensive, and it's kind of a cool bucket list item.
Love that. What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends?
My favorite thing to do on the weekends is to just explore Nevada. Mount Charleston in the summer. There's so many beautiful areas. There's so many things even in northern Nevada. This state we're very, very like rich in the environment and just get outdoors. And so, my husband and I like just take the dogs and just like kind of go explore, right? Like go to Lake Mead, all those sorts of things.
What is one must-have experience for visitors?
Oh my gosh. I think the must have experience for visitors is to do something that's like a local would do, right? Is to go to the Arts District, go to the Majestic Theater, go to the Comedy Club, right? Like just do something that's like not so like big and brash, but to actually like kind of, visit something that's just a little bit more like kind of small and hidden.
And last question, what is the most underrated perk of living in Nevada?
Oh, so my husband and I were at dinner on Friday night, and in the span of us being in this restaurant for an hour and a half, we saw a casino owner, we saw a Diana Ross impersonator and their entire party, we saw a local newscaster, and we each ran into like two different friends. The incredibleness of this big, vast, vibrant town that is just booming with all this incredible energy and sports and all of these things, but yet it's still this small town where you have like all these eclectic like things and celebrities where we can just all come together is honestly like I just love this town. I love this town.
I love that answer, and I definitely think that it only happens here.
It only happens in Vegas. It really does.
Thank you so much for coming in and giving us an overview of communities and schools, and also just reminding us that, we need to lead with empathy and we need to lead with understanding. I think I just get so excited about the future, and I love hearing about nonprofits that are investing in our students. And I think the future is bright here in Nevada because of it.
Well, it's an honor to be on Home Means Nevada. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. Home Means, where the heart of Nevada comes alive. This is a place where we uncover the real stories behind the people who make our state extraordinary. From unforgettable adventures to everyday moments that shape us. This podcast is all about the voices, the faces, and the experiences that make Nevada truly unique. Let's dive in and get to the heart of what home means.